So yeah, basically, I got selected to attend the mentor summit. Basically, while GSoC was going on, I there's like a Google form that's floated, as in like, would you be interested to attend the summit? And I had filled that in. And of course, like for the summit, there's like designated like maintainers and org admins usually for from each org are the ones who are designated spots to attend. But then, of course, like if some of them are not able to attend, slots get freed up, and that's when they take the people who expressed interest to attend, and like from a wait list, and they take them. So I was selected as that. So apart from me, officially representing INCF, there were two other people. So there was the main. So there was I was talking to Arnab Banerjee, but Arnab was not able to attend. So there was Matthew Adams who attended as the org admin, and then there was another mentor named Dimitri who also attended who was also from another sub org in INCF. And it was from the 23rd to the 25th of October. It was an amazing experience. It was in Germany, so I got to travel there as well. And it was like the first day was basically a welcome dinner where we all just got to meet each other. There were about, I think, 180 people attending, Google staff, the mentors, and everybody included. And we all got to meet each other, interact about what our orgs did and all. And it was just like a welcome dinner on the first day. And then the second day is when it actually started. So throughout, it was in this like unconference format that like Google propagates, where there were no like there were very few one to many sessions. The most prominent of them were the lightning talks, which were held on the second day in two sessions. So that was very similar to how I've also given GSoC contributor lightning talks, so a very similar format where each speaker gets 3 minutes and they kind of give you like a sneak peek into what their org does and what they did this year. And apart from that, unless it was like some announcement, everything was in an unconference format where there weren't actually like one to many sessions, but they encouraged that anybody who wants to hold a session, put it up on a board. They had a whole board with like time slots and put it up on the board if it's, if the slot is open. And like for a conference room. So there were about 7 conference rooms where these sessions were going on simultaneously. And most of them were like discussions. So, you get together in a conference room that has a capacity of say 18 people, 20 people, 40 people at the max, and all of you like sit around a table and you put ahead what is your topic, and everybody just discusses on it. And the topics to that ranged from like everything from AI and how bad is it or how good is it, to actual problems that people are facing in their orgs, to things that people wanted to share and talk to others about. So I did two things regarding our org. One was I was trying to give a lightning talk. So there were registrations open for the lightning talk in advance, but unfortunately there was like a slight miscommunication with Matthew, and I thought he was giving the talk and he thought I was giving the talk for INCF. So unfortunately we didn't get like a proper slot in. So the actual slots given by the GSoC team filled up. But then there was another time where the ballroom where the lightning talks were held were open. So a few of us who were on the wait list and wanted to presented then, which was on Sunday, I think. So yeah, I kind of had this like the first 3 slides from this presentation, which I presented as our lightning talk. One of which was this, where I highlighted like everything that we have done so far in like our open source community sustainability project, from like the 3 different approaches done in 2022 with the published paper to my approach in 2024. And then, of course, I wanted to focus on this year. So I also presented Vidhi's project and how like she has incorporated everything from the past few years and added her own metrics and her own new ideas into this project, and also her findings that she she compiled in the preprint. So all of this to like kind of give everybody an idea into what Orel does. And yeah, so this was the lighting talk. We also recorded it. I think if once I get the video, I'll try to put it up on the Slack. So this was that. And then another major thing that I did was what I posted about. So I tried to hold a session on the open source community sustainability and kind of wanted to talk about the metrics, that like, because that's like one of the things that we face a lot as well. Where like I remember even in my year that was a question I asked, and even that was also a question that Vidhi had asked me, where like how do we like we're making the simulation, what are the metrics for this? And there's been a lot of discussion about this, and we've all gone through like Bradley's drive on like all the papers that have it. But I also wanted to discuss with everybody there because they are the people in those open source communities, and these are the people that have been sustaining it for quite some time. So I held this session, and even though it was a 9 a.m. session in the morning, like I held it in a capacity of 18 people of a room with the capacity of 18 people, and about 22 people showed up. So there were 4 people standing for like the duration of the 1 hour session. But it was a very like people were very excited to kind of talk about this topic. And yeah, so like this page is like the notes that I taken through during the session, but I was also trying to compile it because we can also put it up on the official like the website, the summit website. So but yeah, the some of the main things that we talked about there. So first I presented like what Orel has been, because by this at this point my lightning talk had not yet already been done. So to give like sort of some context into what we actually do, I kind of presented those similar slides. And what was the reason that I was, wanted to discuss this. And then we had like some discussion. So the main two questions that I posed to the group was, the first was what is the core definition of sustainability, and like, how should it be measured? Should it be qualitative, quantitative? How? So should it be like just contributor retention, or should it be the kind of work that is getting done compared to the cost? Because at that point, I'd also attended a session talking about like what goes on behind the funding of open source communities. So that was also a big thing in my mind. And yeah, so that was what we talked about. And then these are like some of the insights. One was that like, of course, you need contributor retention, but then the main thing is like the project health needs to be maintained. So you also need to get new people and retain old people. This is like tale as old as time, but also something that was discussed in quite detail with like everybody's own experiences. Then another thing that like a lot of maintainers who attended, like the maintainer of the Misa Foundation and the maintainer of Music Brains attended this, and thing that they said was like good enough is like actually better than perfect, because they don't want, because if contributors, if they are focused on like perfect and they give too many critiques, people lose interest in contributing, and at some point it's software, it will be agile. So it just needs to be good enough to go in this release. So that was something that like according to them was like quite important for long term sustainability. And then I introduced that like we are using agent based simulations for modeling, and at the end like they were also really interested in those like graphics and all that I showed. So quite some people like came up in the end and were like send us links to this. It looks quite interesting. And yeah, so another major thing that I wanted to talk about with them was quantitative versus qualitative metrics, because like many indicators I feel are subjective. And how do we actually try to see, even if we're looking at a community, see if it's sustainable? So some of the metrics that we talked about were like, so one was retention, which of course like could be done, checked by like GitHub PRs, whether this person is contributing for X amount of time. So it is quantitative, but like it was like agreed upon as like, this is one of the base indications of, whether this person is motivated to be in your community. So that was one thing. Then like another thing that someone suggested was like lines of code as well. So I also pointed out that this was also something that we had modeled in one of our 2022 models, where like it's not every PR is the same. So there could be like a basic earth shot, moon shot versus like a Mars shot. This and also like these notes are not final, so I'm just making this for the rest. And then another metric was the engineering health and the product health. So engineering health was like activity tracking. People also mentioned like two of the people from two different orgs mentioned that they actively use like these softwares, which basically are like what GitHub those GitHub like squares do, but like on steroids, where like it tells you everything, tells you like how many PRs, who commented, who raised a bug, and like gives you like a very zoomed out view of it in terms of graphs. So they are basically like they track your health, and especially they mentioned that it was especially useful when there were multiple repositories. So any org that kind of deals with multiple repositories and like so GitHub does not sync across them, so like they were highly encouraging to use these, and they didn't mention like these tools had to be like deployed themselves. They were like a bit difficult, but like if you are an org that heavily relies on knowing your user base and your contributor base, so this was like a quite an important and worth it thing to do. And then the other also like indicator that people discussed of sustainability was the fact that product health. So like just understanding what your contributors or your developers are doing is not enough. Like you also need to understand the product value to the user base, and like the user base is quite important as well for actual sustainability of your community. So taking user surveys, feedback, so that was also like a great metric that people suggested. And that's of course like it can be like quantified with like an insight. Somebody can say that yeah, if user surveys are mostly positive, that's good. Or there can also be like, you know, people are also discussing that there can be very edge cases where we notice that mostly people only comment when it's something negative, or only leave a review when it's something negative. So that can of course skew the results, which is why it needs like a qualitative insight to know where you actually put that survey. But then it is also at the end of the day a good metric, and you need to like make decisions about the quantification, like just not just what the contributions are. And then the other main thing that I wanted to discuss was like how do all these like human factors, and especially the communication, which was like something that I tried to model in my 2024 project as well. So how does that come together for a healthy community? So like should it just be code contribution, or like how much of a metric is the communication part of it? And everybody agreed that like if you're talking about community, like sustaining the community, like the communication is a very important part of it. One is like, also we discussed like how do we invite contributors into our community. And the first thing is like, you need to not make it very like domain specific as well. And then being like warm and welcoming. Someone mentioned that like they make it a point to reply to every single message that is dropped on their IRC, no matter how small it is, no matter if it's during the Google Summer Code season where there's like a lot of them, but they do reply to everything, because it's important for like to like people to know that this is an active community and they are welcome there. Then another thing that was discussed was like you need to also protect the community, because they like about three people shared this experiences with like toxic contributors where unfortunately they had to like either fire them or ask them to politely step aside, because they were making everything so either about themselves or trying to be so perfectionist in everything that it was detrimenting the like the overall project. And like another thing that everybody talked about was like the fact that it should spark joy. So it was like, even though like it's a very indirect metric, but the overall community should be happy, and that's the only way to sustain long term. Then also big point was that there's not just contributions are not just code. So for a lot of people, contributions are in the form of data that the users give back, that the users upload. For some people, contributions are in the form of like workshops that people take, teaching other people to use their product. So documentation and in just active community engagement was like a main thing. There was another like major thing that like there are main contributors in every project, and then there are hobbyists that just do a few bugs or something, and that's like a differentiation that has to be qualitative. But that is something that makes difference, because losing a main contributor does much more harm to your sustainability. So that was one thing. And then there were like some suggestions on how to prioritize feedback and communication, especially for some people that were facing it actively in their communities. Like there's someone from the Processing Foundation who was I think, the project lead of the P5.js product and library. And they were saying that like, because the majority of their users are school teachers and they don't want to already burden them, they're already quite burdened. They don't want to, increase it by saying, tell us what's good with our product, contribute to us. But then there were suggestions on like how they could do that. Or they could pick a time where like there is summer, school is off. But like it's important to get active feedback from your users. And then another discussion was like the need for hierarchy. So especially for like big communities, you cannot just let everybody do it on their own. So what, or even the maintainer cannot do it all on their own. So what Robert Dave suggested, the maintainer of Music Brains, was he suggested that he has the idea of keeping lieutenants, where they help to share work, and each lieutenant is in charge of like a particular component, and then they know what to do with everything regarding that, what contributions to accept, what PRs to review, and also what like actively new features to take up. And also if there is someone doing something wrong, doing something toxic, the lieutenants also help out in that, instead of just one single maintainer. And then another thing was that use, like especially when it comes to funding and everything, so users were like one of the main things for long term sustainability. Like everybody shared that like it was very important for users to be like for a product to basically have as many users as possible before trying to figure out how to sustain it. So make a good product, make a good better user base. And there was this like 2%, somebody suggested the 2% campaign rule, where like 2% of users typically end up contributing. So a large engaged user base is like the key to long term sustainability. So there was that. There was another thing which people discuss is like negative incentive, where like they notice that if the website goes down or there's an issue in the product, that is when a lot of people get engaged in the community, and unfortunately that is also when a lot of donations come into the community. Even though like donations, a lot of people accepted that like donations are not what drives the community, like that's not the source of their funding. But that is what like gets people interested. As long as the product is working fine, people tend to ignore the survey links and tend to ignore everything. And then someone also discussed how the community reacted when they closed the old bug report, actually led them to believe that, yeah, this is a feature that a lot of the community uses that they actually didn't know. So there are these like very minute things as well that can um, indicate what actually is the users and the developers are both facing. So yeah, that was like mainly about the session that I conducted. And apart from that, there's also like quite a few interesting and important people I met. Right after the session, there were two people. So there was Kit from the Processing Foundation, who said that she would, like to use she was interested in like all the graphs and metrics we made during the um, uh, GSoC projects, and she asked for links for all of those. And there was also I'm gonna have a bit of trouble pronouncing his name, but I believe Ewout from who's like the maintainer of Misa Foundation. And again, like he said, like you all are doing stuff on agent-based modeling, and I really like the UI that was built, especially for the 2024 project. So since we have everything to do with agent-based modeling, we should connect and kind of try to see if we can get this sort of UI incorporated in Misa as well. And then apart from that, I also attended a few sessions. One was from Andreas, who works in GSBML, and he's the professor of bioinformatics in some university. I forgot the name of the university, but he basically held a lightning talk and also a session about how to get people, like the lightning talk was about what his organization does, and the session was about how to get people more interested in bioinformatics and like the various things that they face, such as uh, like in the discussions, one of the things that everybody faced was like data formats, and then so the gatekeeping of data. So there isn't enough data because a lot of it is curated by private hospitals and it's then paywalled. So yeah, I also like talked to him about DevoWorm a bit, and that is someone that like we can look at. And then also I attended a few lightning talks from mentors at Scala and mentors at DBpedia Association. And another quite important person I met was so there was of Upside Down Labs, and when he heard that I work in a like I was affiliated with INCF, so Upside Down Labs is like a startup based in Bangalore, India, and they make DIY neuroscience kits, especially for the purpose of teaching. And he basically shared his contact, and I thought that maybe we can look at this, because I know in Jopro and all there are, I think, some kits being used. So this is also someone that we can connect with. And also realized there that some of the people from my college have also used this like bioamp pills for one of the hackathons project as well. So we kind of got to know each other there as well and realized that we have like crossed paths in a way. But yeah, that was like high level excerpts from the this, and I'll unmute now for, and I'll drop the links for all of this. So this is the Upside Down Labs. So yeah, the Grimoire Lab and Augur were the um, the two softwares that people suggested. So for open source sustainability and for like checking the metric. And I also go the chat.